Live on tape, Work in Progress, a World at Work podcast about work, life, and everything in between, with award-winning radio host Tom Alexander and Workspan's Not Safe for Work columnist Charles Epstein. Here are your hosts, Tom and Charles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Work in Progress. I'm Tom Alexander, and joined as always by my good friend and partner, Charles Epstein. Hey, Charles, exciting show today, huh?
Yes, particularly since we'll be debuting our long-awaited HR Horror Stories segment.
Yeah, no, definitely been looking forward to that.
Yes, speaking of HR horror, coincidentally, I came across this article. Check this out.
Yeah.
Employees, this is the title, employees keep ghosting their job offer. Let me just read a little bit of it to you. It's kind of interesting. Many of us have faced excruciating silence while waiting to hear back from a prospective employer, only to wind up hearing nothing at all. But now the tables could be turning as more and more job applicants leave hopeful employers in the lurch. New research from recruitment firm Randstad US suggests that as many as 2/3 of U.S. managers have been snubbed by candidates who initially accepted a job offer only to retract it or disappear entirely ahead of their start date. And the practice was dubbed ghosting after gaining notoriety in the realm of online dating. Have you ever ghosted a job offer? I know I have.
Yeah. I guess you could say, the offer, I was actually already kind of doing something. I got almost hired on the spot. I was with this knife company that you would sell knife sets door to door. I will not mention the name of the company. But anyway, you had to go. It was literally something out of like a Saturday Night Live skit. You would go door to door with your set of knives and, cut a rope, cut a soda can in half with these amazing knives, right? So on my very first door to door prospective sale, this guy opens the door and probably, in his 50s or 60s and kind of, fit, kind of tough looking guy, crew cut, and I barely get a couple words out of my mouth. And he says, "I don't want to hear it. You could get out of here. I'll take one of those knives and stab you." It's like, okay, well, that was it. I took the knife set back to the company, dropped it on their desk, and said, "I'll see you later."
Yeah, I don't blame it. That was the very first day, the very first place you showed up.
First call, first sales call.
Yeah, no, well, I'd be out there too. My story did not exactly end with the threat of violence like yours did, so it lacks that excitement factor. But I remember years ago I responded to an ad calling for, I guess it was a marketing writer. So, I had a decent job description. It felt like it might be interesting. So I go there and immediately I'm thrown into, what looked like a call center. The lead guy comes in right out of Wall Street, looks like a cut rate Gordon Gekko. Hair slicked back, the suspenders, the whole thing. And then he gives us an intro. Then he brings out his top sales guy. And again, this is right out of Glenn Ross. And, this top sales guy, some jock type full of energy. And so he's going to demonstrate how to make a sales call. So he makes 2 sales calls and, didn't go exactly as planned. The third call, boom, he made the sale miraculously. And the lead guy rang a bell and everybody's going crazy and pumping fists, like the most exciting thing. We just won the Super Bowl. And, this continued for about another hour. He was making calls and a success rate, allegedly, at closing these deals was remarkable. And again, everybody's going nuts, starts having that locker room vibe. And then we break for lunch. And, of course, I decided to take a very casual lunch, and 1 hour went into 2. So I guess I kind of decided at that point to ghost. The job never came back. But I have several stories like that.
Yeah.
So But I guess today the ghosting is a result of unemployment being at an all-time low. So I guess the market has shifted, and it's more of an employee market where they can dictate through various options.
Yeah, it seems so. It's definitely a bit of a paradigm shift, as they say. Well, on today's show, we'll be speaking with David Osborne. He's the CEO of Virgin Pulse, and also with Workspan editor Stephanie Rotundo, who has graciously, Charles, agreed to step into the role of HR horror expert. All right. Well, here we go. David Osborne coming up in just a moment. This is Work in Progress.
You're listening to Work in Progress with Tom Alexander and Charles Epstein.
Ever wonder how much to pay a galactic viceroy of research excellence? A fashion evangelist, in-house philosopher, or hacker in residence? Yep, those are real job titles. Comp pros need to keep a pulse on up-to-the-minute pricing, yet for many new emerging and hot jobs, even those with more humdrum titles, data is scarce or simply doesn't exist in traditional data sources. So how do you accurately price a job for which there is no close match, no market data, and enormous demand? Get the answers during Salary.com's Pricing Strategies for Hot Jobs webinar on June 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. To register, visit worldatwork.org/education.
David Osborne is CEO of Virgin Pulse and the leading global provider of employee well-being and engagement technology solutions, which was founded in 2004 as part of Sir Richard Branson's Virgin Group. David is a business technology and digital health engagement thought leader with more than 22 years experience in global sales, SaaS, cloud technology operations, transformation planning and execution, specifically in the human capital management market. David Osborne, welcome to Work in Progress.
Hey guys, thank you. Good to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. Please say hello to my partner, Charles.
Hey Charles, how you doing?
Hey David, I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for making the time for us today. You know, my first question, the one Tom and I have been waiting to ask since we knew you'd be coming on, is, have you ever gone parasailing with Mr. Branson? If not, why not? And if you have, how do we get invited?
Right. Are you referring to that wonderful picture of that supermodel parasailing on his back? He's not asked me to do that. So that's unfortunate. Okay. But no. Sadly, I've not gone parasailing with Sir Richard. You know, I've met him a few times and we've had a lot of fun. He's got some great stories, but I'll leave the parasailing adventures to him and his more exciting groups.
Well, you know, we live in hope. You know, recently, just by happenstance, you know, I came across the story of how Sir Richard founded Virgin and how he was handed a demo tape of Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells. He was blown away. They recorded it. And in order to promote it, he arranged a live performance with Mick Taylor, you know, then of the Stones, and of course, Stevie Winwood. And last minute, Oldfield kind of freaked out, didn't want to go on. And when Branson said if he went on, he'd give him his Bentley, he went on, and the album went on to vie with Dark Side of the Moon for the ` album, and the rest is history. That's a hell of a story. You know?
That's great.
I think then he went to rep the Stones and the Sex Pistols. So then he was on his way.
Well, that's fantastic. I remember, I'm originally from Toronto. I remember seeing that huge Virgin Records store downtown Toronto that was just like 3 floors and massive, and those are a thing of the past now, unfortunately, but I used to love going in them.
Yeah, Powers Records, you know, all those places have gone away.
Yeah, different era. Yeah, speaking of Sir Richard, we know that Virgin Group controls some 400 companies. How did he come to found or support Virgin Pulse, and how involved is he in the business?
Yeah, good question. He founded it around 14 years ago, and I think, you know, there's a few versions of the story, but the version I like most is Nelson Mandela called him, and there was a bunch of gyms that were kind of financially unstable, kind of going out of business, and they asked if he would, you know, kind of help think of ideas to revitalize them. And And he started this company really on kind of like a health miles concept, meaning if you went into the gym, you could accrue kind of these health miles that can be used towards travel and so forth. So that's how it started a long time ago. And it was really just a, gym kind of concept. And then it turned into more of a, track your steps kind of model. And here we are today as, a very robust digital platform that talks really about everything well-being, whether it's activity or mental resilience or nutrition or sleep, etc. So it's really evolved tremendously over the 14 years, obviously, but more specifically, even the last 2 years, it's a completely brand new, different company that's pretty exciting to be a part of. His involvement, sadly, is limited now just because we recapped the business about a year ago, and all his shares got bought out by our new owners. However, we maintain the brand and we maintain our relationship with Richard. He's coming to our customer event next week, which is exciting. He's going to speak there. So his involvement is more in spirit than any kind of financial component or control.
Pretty impressive. I don't think it gets more impressive than Nelson Mandela having you on speed dial.
Yeah, when Nelson Mandela calls you, you do want to call him back.
Yes, I would say. On your LinkedIn page, it says that Virgin Pulse is the largest workplace well-being company in the world. Is this based on the number of companies you have as clients, number of lives covered, or the breadth of services and programs?
I think all the above. I mean, we have 7.5 million members that use the platform now, which is the most out there. We're in more countries than anybody else. We cover more languages than anybody else. And we probably have more customers than anybody else. So I think it's a combination of all of them, yeah.
You're responsible for, now I'm reading this from your profile, leading the companies. I know that's always a little bit dicey, but you're responsible for leading the company's vision of personalizing and simplifying the health and well-being experience for employees and employers. How do you do this? How do you personalize the experience? And by simplifying, you suggesting that one of the problems with wellness generally is their complexity.
Great question. I think there's two components to this, right? One is the personalization, one's the complexity. I'm going to start with the complexity part first. I mean, this is in our opinion, a very broken industry, meaning we've got medical costs on the rise. We have employee engagement at its all-time lowest. We've got scenarios where you could go get a surgery on your wrist and one doctor in network will charge you $2,500 and a doctor across the street also in network will cost you $25,000. And the same with pharmaceuticals or lab work or what have you. So it's a very broken industry with that perspective. It's also very difficult to navigate. I don't know if you get a bill in the mail for $85 because you went to the doctor and you said to yourself, well, I thought I had a copay and I'm sure I gave them $20. What is this? So it's difficult and complex to navigate. I've actually had a collection agency come after me for literally $85 from a doctor's appointment. And one of the reasons why that is because the bill was sent to a house that I lived in 5 years prior. And I had no idea I even had to pay them. Not only did I not know I had the bill, I didn't even know I had to pay it because I was under the impression that my insurance covered it. So the complexity just around this broken industry is terrible. So our job really is to, via innovation or via acquiring companies or partnering with great companies, is just reduce that complexity and really kind of introduce this concept of home base for health, which is this one place that all people can go to for everything health and well-being, whether it's using a well-being platform to track all your activity that's important. And I'll get to the personalization piece in a bit, or just navigating the complexity of the healthcare system. The first part of your question, which I'm answering second, so I apologize, is the personalization. And this is really just that. This is, you can't big bang this. You can't say, I have a program or a platform that's good for everybody. So the way we designed our platform is, focus on things that are important to you. So what's important to me right now might be nutrition and sleep. And what's important to you might be, mental resilience and activity. So the platform rolls out content and programs specific to how you put inputs into it and specific to what's important just for you. So a very bottoms-up approach or very employee-led approach versus top-down or employee.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a question. You said engagement is an all-time low, and obviously engagement is sort of like dial tone. If you don't have that, you can't make a connection. You can't do anything. Why is it at an all-time low?
It's a great question. I think we are in a market today where unemployment is at a 50-year low. So it's definitely an employee-based market today. There's a war for talent out there. You've got employees that are, in my opinion, overworked, working more hours than they've ever worked. The new social contract is prevalent right now. It's not about a paycheck anymore. So when you have all that, you really have people coming to frustrated, stressed out, and it's really impacting their well-being, their physical well-being, their mental well-being, and even their financial well-being with the rising cost of healthcare. So, you add all these up, and you really have a very unengaged workforce. And what employees are looking for is employers to give them more than a paycheck. They want to have a career path, and they want to know that employers are looking out for them. That's what we're seeing in the industry.
David, changing lives for good it's a great slogan. Speaking to the central challenge, how do you change bad habits to good ones, and how do you maintain the good habits? That's the key word is the maintenance. Sure. In your view, what is the key or the keys to keeping people on track and keeping them from backsliding?
Yeah, no, great question. I think the science behind this is all our learnings and how everything we've built in the platform is based on BJ Fogg, who's kind of this world-renowned behavior change expert on the West Coast. And the theory really is around, if you take tiny changes in your activity, that turns into daily habits. So, for example, one of the reasons why, here it is, it's Christmas, you're writing your goals down, 25% of the world has joined some gym and they're going to get their New Year's resolution, right? They're going to get fit. And they try and big bang it. They're like, okay, I'm going to run every day, and I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to count my calories. And I'm going to do all these things all at once. And as you know, that lasts 2 to 3 weeks for most people. They go right back to whatever the hell they were doing before. Number one, make it something that's important for you to work on, right? So if I want to lose 10 pounds, I'm going to work on nutrition and activity, and some of the things are going to help me do that. When you track results, we're not giving you credit for, oh, I went from sleeping 6 hours to 7, or, hey, I've lost 10 pounds, therefore I get credit. We're giving you credit for just tracking your activity. That's the important thing. And it's those tiny little habits that turn into daily routines. And if you think about it, of our members, 60% of them use the platform on a daily basis. I mean, if you layer that onto like social media, Facebook would win that race, right? They get like high 70s as far as daily usage. The next one behind Facebook is Virgin Pulse.
What would you say are the 2 to 3 most important innovations Virgin has brought to wellness? And you kind of have touched on the second question or the second part of this, but what do you see as essential challenge or essential challenges in maintaining a healthy, productive workforce going forward?
I think that the innovation component is really around the personalization. That has been, kind of the secret sauce in getting people back to the platform daily and getting that high usage. Usage to us is oxygen. So the personalization is key. We realized a long time ago that, most employers, as they roll this out as a benefit to their employees, offer some sort of financial incentive, right? So if you do these things on the platform and you get to a certain level, you'll get, $500 or $100. That's important. But I think the other important, that's called extrinsic motivation, right? The other important thing is the intrinsic motivation. And having us personalize it and really make it gamified and social, that's the innovation that allowed the intrinsic motivation to kick off. So, and what we've realized a long time ago is you can't just have one. You can't just have the intrinsic motivation. You can't just have extrinsic motivation. You absolutely need both. So if you're, a marathon runner and you're super healthy and feel good about yourself, and let's offer up content and programs in more of a preventive way. Let's make sure you stay healthy.
We're speaking with David Osborne. He's the CEO of Virgin Pulse. Last question, David. I see that you were an NCAA golfer, Division I, and on your LinkedIn page it says, with respect to your golf, quote, Dave knows firsthand that well-being and healthy lifestyles pay significant dividends in driving performance and long-term success, and probably driving long balls as well, I would imagine. I'm assuming that you are making a connection between golf and wellness and mindfulness. I've played golf, and maybe this is just me, but despite the lovely view, golf doesn't exactly put me in a mindful and meditative state.
Right.
Though there have been times when I've thrown my clubs into the water hazard after a triple bogey, and I have to say that was extremely cathartic. How did golf sort of inform that?
It's funny. I got a funny story, if I may. I was golfing with a buddy of mine, and all through the front nine and into the back nine, he was complaining about this fairway wood that he uses, and every time he pulls out the bag and hits it, he hits a bad shot, and he just hates it. He literally hated this club. And we were on the 16th hole, and he looked at me, and I looked at him and I said, "Hey, what club do you hate again?" He goes, "Yeah, I hate this hybrid one." So I grabbed the club out of his bag and I tossed it into the middle of the lake. And he looked at me. He goes, "I don't even know what to say to this." But the next day we played again. He played the best round of his life because he couldn't pull that damn club out. But I'll tell you, one of the things, what I was getting at there, by the way, is if you're a golfer, you're probably gonna get this. But if you play golf once a year, you're probably not going to get any better, right? And in fact, I could argue if you play golf once a month, you're not going to get any better. And the parallel I'm drawing there is health and well-being is no different, right? It's not a once a month or a once a year thing. You have to play every single day to be a great golfer and to continue to maintain, your low handicap. And similar to health and well-being, you have to focus on it every single day to continue to be healthy and to continue to perform at your peak and so forth. And I'm not saying that, as a golfer, I practice 7 to 8 hours a day. What I'm suggesting is, you use the app, honestly, you use it twice a day and you use it for about a minute each time. It's very different, but the concepts are the same. So, God, you brought me back to the good old days back in college. That was a lifetime ago, though, guys. So,
by the way, David, has anybody who used your app ever reported coming down with a bad case of the yips?
Not that I know of. Is the yips still a thing? I thought
somebody solved the yips
that a long time ago.
I haven't heard that.
My golf coach played on tour for 3 years as a young kid, and he said he had the yips so bad he'd hit par fours with his driver, and he'd go to putt on his second shot, and he said he'd be hitting his third shot out of the bunker.
Oh.
Yeah, that's officially a set of the yips, I think. David, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Our guest has been David Osborne, the CEO of Virgin Pulse, the leading global provider of employee well-being and engagement technology solutions. David, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Work in Progress. There's more in a moment.
Ever wonder how much to pay a galactic viceroy of research excellence, a fashion evangelist, in-house philosopher, or hacker in residence? Yep, those are real job titles. Comp pros need to keep a pulse on up-to-the-minute pricing, yet for many new emerging and hot jobs, even those with more humdrum titles, data is scarce or simply doesn't exist in traditional data sources. So how do you accurately price a job for which there is no close match, no market data, and enormous demand? Get the answers during Salary.com's Pricing Strategies for Hot Jobs webinar on June 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. To register, visit worldatwork.org/education.
And we're back on Work in Progress. Charles, this is exciting. I'm jacked up about this. Today is our first installment of HR horror stories because, as we like to say around the office, you can't spell horror without HR.
Oh, true that.
Yeah, true that indeed. Every so often we'll be joined by World at Work's crack associate editor, Stephanie Rotundo, who in her 15-year career in journalism has seen, experienced, and written about HR horror in all its grisly forms. Now, it all started when Stephanie worked for a large tech company in Seattle. From there, scenes of HR horror stalked her as she took a variety of editorial and writing positions en route to landing at World at Work, where she tells us it's been remarkably free of HR horror, other than the stories that come in over the transom from her visibly shaken contributors. So Charles, in these segments, Stephanie will share firsthand horror stories of horror visited on unsuspecting employees from HR, and of course, stories of unimaginable horror they themselves lived through. Company names and individual. I got to put this disclaimer in, folks. Sure. Company names and individual names will be changed to prevent lawsuits. So here we go. Let's get it started. Welcome, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, say hello to my friend and partner, Charles Epstein.
Hey,
Charles Epstein, you say. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you in this context. Obviously, we've met and have had many conversations.
The funny thing is that I haven't been in HR, or I suppose adjacent to HR, for all that long. And yet, ever since, people just keep telling me all of their HR-related problems, even though I'm not technically an HR professional. I'm a writer and editor who has worked with HR. And apparently that means that I know all the things. I hear a lot of weird stories, though. They say, "Oh, you're in HR. Well, that must mean maybe you can help me with this problem." Or, "Have you heard of this?" Or, "I have this friend and she's really having a problem." And some of these stories that I hear, I mean, you just really wouldn't believe them if you didn't know that they were true. But that has really gotten me on this path of kind of researching these HR horror stories, as we're calling them, and it's all encompassing. It could mean anything from, it's a horror for HR, like they're having to deal with this scary mess that someone else has created for them, or it could mean that HR itself is the horror, and it works both ways.
Yeah, that's well. Listen, let's get right to it. What have you got for us today? Please horrify us.
I feel like this one will do it. So there was a story that I came across about a month or so ago. A manager in Kentucky allegedly tried to cleanse her direct report with an exorcism after learning that this employee was having marital issues. He was going through a divorce.
I know we're not supposed to be political here, but, might have been a good thing had they started with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. But please continue.
Perhaps. But according to the complaint, the manager was asking the employee to complete this packet of information. Now, this packet of information was quite sizable. It included 1 page of instructions on how to complete all of the forms, a 2-page release and indemnity agreement, sure, and 9 pages of questions. Now, these questions were, well, there's really no other word. They were horrifying.
Yeah, just 1 second, Stephanie, before you continue. Charles, you ready? You're gonna be okay?
I think so. I've got a garlic clove and a crucifix. So, Stephanie, I'm ready to be terrified.
Well, one such question was, were you a planned child?
Kind of know where they're going with that. Yes, it sounds borderline horrific. It seems like we're getting more and more sort of into the labyrinth of horror.
I'm starting you off easy.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Have you, your parents or grandparents, ever been in a cult?
Well, I should say that I am a member of the Screen Actors Guild. So does that count? I think I'm not sure if that counts. It may.
I suppose it depends on who you're asking. It gets better. Have you ever made a pact with the devil? Now, I saw this and thought to myself, well, sure. How do you think I get out of bed every morning?
Yeah, how do you think we landed this podcast?
Yeah.
I wondered about that. Another question, and this one really, really confused me for a variety of reasons. But the other question was, do you have any witches, such as, and I quote, good luck kitchen witches in your home? Now, I have to say, I do not know what a good luck kitchen witch is. I imagine it's something that might do the dishes for you, in which case I need one of those.
I'm thinking it's more like a sous chef, which is not an ordinary thing.
And I also have to wonder, where does one find such things? I mean, can I get it on Amazon?
But good luck. Did you search?
I haven't. I'm afraid.
Yeah, we need to search. Tom, any thoughts on what a good luck kitchen witch might be? Have you ever encountered anything that might fit that description? By the way, Tom is very, very handy in the kitchen, I might add.
Well, I appreciate that, and everything is by eye. I follow no recipes, but I kind of adopted that from my maternal grandmother, who used to stand over my shoulder and kind of keep an eye on me as I would cook. And, perhaps she was a good luck kitchen witch in a sense that she would just toss these spices over her right shoulder. I don't know.
That sounds plausible.
And I also wonder, does a ditch witch count? So now I'm just confused. I just don't understand. But this goes on for 9 pages. I mean, I have more. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, please.
Oh,
please.
Yeah. No, please continue.
Beginning.
What is your church background?
That would have knocked me out pretty quickly.
And you have to wonder exactly what sort of answer are they looking for here? Because what if I said I go to, I don't know, I always say that I go to the Church of St. Mattress because God said on the 7th day you rest. And so that's what I do. So if I said that, I'm concerned that maybe the manager might have been upset.
Yeah, no, I'm assuming there's only one very specific answer.
Well, I did one time on visiting San Francisco, attend the St. John Coltrane African Orthodox Church, which really does exist, of course, dedicated to the great jazz saxophonist John Coltrane.
Yeah, I'm totally in on that. That sounds great.
There. Yeah, you're there.
Yeah,
I've been converted.
I'm gonna go to the website, see what they got in the gift shop. It'd be great.
Yeah,
if you can find a John Coltrane rosary, count me in.
That's more to the point. Yes.
Anyway, so let's continue with these just absolutely terrifying questions. Next one that I found, again, very confusing, was: have you ever visited heathen temples?
Well, I guess the one that the John Coltrane temple would.
Yeah.
These questions, the ones that I have kind of started you off with, they're all very geared towards that sort of religious side of things. Yeah, I know, shocker. But as you can imagine, they quickly spin off into other areas of perhaps maybe managers shouldn't be asking employees about these things, such as: have you ever committed fornication, adultery, been with prostitutes, had homosexual or lesbian desires or experiences?
Well, define experiences. Only kidding.
Yeah, I have no response for that.
I wish it's the only appropriate response.
So it goes on like this, and the questions just get more and more personal and again, terrifying, horrifying, insert whatever word you'd like here. Ultimately, the employee, initially he had refused to complete this questionnaire, but ultimately he kept feeling the pressure, and so he did actually fill it out. But then he refused to give it to the manager. He also refused to take part in an exorcism.
The bed must be on the floor. 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 The bed is on my foot. The bed is on my foot. The bed is on my foot.
As well as several attempts to get him to go to church. He also avoided the many prayer sessions that this manager organized in the lobby of the hotel that they worked at. This was in front of coworkers and other guests. And according to the court documents, coworkers reported that they had overheard guests talking about these things, which is never good. Ultimately, Guy finally has enough. He quits. He then sues for religious discrimination and my favorite tort of torts, the tort of outrage.
Tort of outrage.
That's sort of like the old SNL bit. Is it a dessert or is it a penalty?
Personally, I cannot imagine that this goes any way except for the judge doing a face palm and asking the manager if she's out of her ever-loving mind.
I would have done something like swapped out all the Bibles in the hotel rooms for something like Aesop's Fables or something.
Or what's that one?
Or Harry
book?
Potter. Harry
Potter would be a good one, yeah.
I think so. Or Rosemary's Baby.
Well, Stephanie, this is interesting, and we really do appreciate you coming on and scaring the hell out of us and our listeners. We look forward to many more HR horror stories. I'm sure you've got an endless supply. And of course, the more horrific and miserable, the better we here at Work in Progress feel about ourselves. Please keep them coming. They do wonders for our self-esteem. Thank you so much, Stephanie Rotundo.
This is Work in Progress.
Closing things out here on Work in Progress, along with Charles Epstein. My name is Tom Alexander, and some great guests today.
Oh, indeed. David was terrific. Learning a little bit more about Virgin Pulse, some of the numbers they have on the utilization through the roof. So they're doing something right, and I'm sure we're not the only ones. When we talk to David, it's almost inescapable. Sir Richard Branson, he's such a fascinating character, how he started Virgin Records with Michael Oldfield's Tubular Bells and went on to rep the Sex Pistols and, of course, the Stones and others and all the amazing things that he's done. And, who knows? We play our cards right. We keep on climbing the podcast charts. Maybe one of these days, we too will be invited out to do a little parasailing with Richard Branson. Although I guess David is still waiting for that invitation. And, of course, I think Stephanie knocked it out of the park with our inaugural HR horror stories.
I've come across a few HR people in my time, and they've said to me that yes, some craziness has happened, but they're not at liberty to discuss most of it. So in fact, one of my really, really great friends, his wife has been a high-level HR executive at some major companies out in the West Coast, and I can say that she's just conveyed very much with just a roll of the eye and a raise of the eyebrow. You know? Pretty
I'm
crazy.
sure at some point it's a soul-deadening experience. But as far as Stephanie's bit went, I don't know how we topped that. I think that was pretty impressive. Exorcism in Kentucky and some of those questions. My goodness, I don't know where we go from here. But as you allude to, we bumped into a number of HR people ourselves. We've been on the receiving end of, I wouldn't necessarily call it HR horror, but I would say HR unpleasantness. How about that? So no shortage of stories, and I'm sure Stephanie's going to be able to keep that pipeline very active.
I can't agree more. Well, next time on Work in Progress, we'll be speaking with Ashley Goodall of Cisco Systems and Brian Stolas, a futurist and the author of 7 best-selling books. That's next time on Work in Progress. Charles, been a lot of fun, and we'll be back next week as long as...
No kitchen witches in the mixing boards.
All right. For Charles Epstein, I'm Tom Alexander. This is Work in Progress. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time. So long, everybody.
This has been Work in Progress, a World at Work podcast about work, life, and everything in between, with award-winning radio host Tom Alexander and Workspan's Not Safe for Work columnist Charles Epstein. For more, visit worldatwork.org/work-in-progress. That's worldatwork.org/work-in-progress. Join us next week for another edition of Work in Progress.